All right, let's get into it. We use phrases like the server's down or connecting to the server pretty much every single day, right? But what does that actually mean? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what's called the client server model. We're going to demystify the invisible engine that powers, well, our entire digital world.
Think about it. It's something you do dozens, maybe even hundreds of times a day without giving it a second thought. But that simple click, it sets off this incredible lightning-fast chain reaction that literally spans the globe. So let's follow that journey from your keyboard all the way to the heart of the internet and back again.
So, to really understand this journey, we have to start at the destination, the server. This is probably the single most important piece of the puzzle. It's the invisible workhorse that makes everything you do online even possible. Now, when you hear the word computer, don't picture the laptop sitting on your desk. A server is a completely different beast. It's a serious, enterprise-grade powerhouse. We're talking incredibly powerful processors, massive amounts of memory, all of it engineered to just run continuously 24/7 without ever shutting down. Its one and only job is to serve up data whenever it's asked.
And this sets up a really simple but powerful relationship. On one side, you've got the client, that's your phone, your laptop, your tablet, it's the asker. And on the other side, you have the server, it's the provider. The entire internet, I mean, the whole thing, is built on this constant back and forth conversation between clients asking for stuff and servers providing it.
A really great way to think about this is to imagine you're in a restaurant. You're the client, and you place an order. That's your request. The waiter, who is basically our server, takes that request, goes to the kitchen, and comes back with your food. That's the response. It is the exact same model, it just happens at the speed of light. Okay, so now that we know the key players, the client and the server, let's follow the journey of a single request. I mean, from the exact moment you click to the moment a web page just magically appears on your screen. It all happens in three main stages. First up is the request. Your browser packages up your command to see a website into a neat little digital message. Second, the journey. That message then zips through this mind-boggling network of underground and undersea fiber optic cables to find the exact right server, which could be thousands of miles away. And finally, the response. The server gets your request, grabs all the website files, and sends them all the way back to you. But here's the thing. It's not just one type of server doing all of this work. Just like in the real world, the digital world has specialists. Servers are actually categorized based on the very specific jobs they're designed to do. So we've mostly been talking about web servers. Those are the ones that serve you websites. But there are also mail servers that handle all your email, and file servers that maybe your office uses to share documents. A database server is what securely manages all your account info and passwords. And of course, if you're a gamer, you are constantly connecting to specialized game servers that run your online matches. Each one is a total specialist. Okay, so this brings us to a moment we have all experienced. That frustrating, helpless feeling when a website or an app you love just stops working. The dreaded server down error. Why on earth does this happen? Well, as powerful as they are, servers have their limits. Think of it like a highway with a certain number of lanes. A server is built to handle a specific capacity. Let's just throw out a number. Say it can manage requests from 10,000 users all at the same time without even breaking a sweat. So here's the crucial question. What happens during a huge event, like a big flash sale, a major news story, or when a ton of students are trying to get their exam results? Suddenly it's not 10,000 people trying to connect. It's 50,000. It's 100,000. What happens when that 10,000 in first person hits refresh? The answer is overload. The server gets a line of requests so massive, it just can't process them all. It becomes unresponsive, it crashes, and that is when you see that infamous 500 internal server error message. It's not that the website is gone, it's just that our waiter is simply too overwhelmed to take any more orders. So where are all these powerful machines? I mean, they're not just sitting in a back office somewhere. Servers live together in these massive, highly specialized buildings called data centers. This is it. This is where the internet physically lives. And listen, these aren't just any old buildings. They are basically fortresses of information. They've got huge backup power generators to make sure they never go offline. They use industrial-scale air conditioning because, well, thousands of servers running 24/7 generate an unbelievable amount of heat. And they're connected directly to the main arteries of the internet, those ultra-high-speed pipelines that carry all of our global data. Now, to handle the insane demands of the modern web,
Companies like Google, they don't just rely on one server. They don't even rely on 100. We are talking tens of thousands of servers, all interconnected in data centers all around the globe. When you do a search, they spread that workload across this huge network just to get you an answer in milliseconds. It's this incredible scale that makes the internet we know today even possible.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. We've gone from single servers to these global networks of tens of thousands. As we demand more speed, more data, and more instant connectivity for, well, everything, from our cars to our coffee makers, what does the next generation of this whole client-server model even look like? What's the next great leap forward for the invisible engine that runs our world?